I sat down in early May with U.S. Senator Ted Cruz to talk about things of life, of COVID, of the pandemic, quarantine, faith, family, all of those things. So this is one of those interviews from early May in which we were able to sit down and talk. If you would like to see the other parts of the interview, you can go to houstonsfirst.org or to our YouTube channel. And give us just your thought on this whole pandemic, on D.C., on where we're headed. Just take it wherever you want to take it, but just it'd be great to just get a little snippet from your mind that's not a sound bite on the news that we get 30 seconds out of an XYZ, but just tell us what your thoughts are on this whole thing.
Well, in Texas, I think we're facing three crises simultaneously. We're facing, on the one hand, a public health crisis, the coronavirus pandemic. It is massive. We have over 1 million cases just in the United States. We've seen hundreds of thousands of people die worldwide. We've got, secondly and simultaneously, an economic crisis. And the breadth and depth of the economic crisis is massive. It's unlike anything you and I have seen in our lifetimes. We've got 30 million people who lost their jobs in the last 2 months. U.S. workforce is about 165 million people. 30 million people, that's 20% of the workforce who's suddenly unemployed. And millions of small businesses that are on the verge of bankruptcy. Both of those crises are playing out at the same time. And then in Texas, we've got a third crisis that's exacerbating this, which is energy and oil and gas. And in the midst of a global health pandemic, Saudi Arabia and Russia decided to launch an economic assault on U.S. energy producers and to flood the world market with oil. That caused the price of the oil to plummet, so much so that just recently the futures prices for May dropped to negative $36 a barrel. I mean, that's nuts. They would literally pay you to take a barrel of oil.
Yeah.
That threatens potentially millions of jobs in Texas. And to have that crisis in oil and gas coinciding with the broader economic crisis, coinciding with the pandemic, it's a perfect storm. I'm spending every waking moment trying to address those three crises. And so I'm on the phone, I'm working. On the energy side, I've been talking with the Saudi government over and over and over again. I've been talking with the Treasury Secretary. On the energy side, I leaned in with the chairman of the Federal Reserve to broaden the loan program that's being provided to make sure that energy, oil and gas, is not discriminated against. On the economy side, look, I think we need to get people back to work as fast as possible, because there are going to be very real human consequences. There already are, and they're going to get a lot worse from this economic devastation. There are going to be lives lost. That when you have 30 million people losing their jobs, when you have people's life savings destroyed, when you have businesses that people have spent decades or even generations building that being utterly obliterated, we know there's going to be a human cost. We know that is going to, and it's going to cost lives. We know we're going to see increased challenges with mental illness, increased challenges with depression, with increased rates of suicide, increased substance abuse, alcohol abuse. All of that is going to cost lives. Right. With Donald Trump as president, so many people react to every development through the lens of, what do you think of Trump? And so for the people who hate Trump, everything's bad. And when it comes to public policy in this crisis, if you hate Trump, an awful lot of those folks are saying, okay, everyone should stay shut down, everyone has to stay home. No, we've got to just halt the economy for months and months and months. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But there are, on the other side, folks who love Trump, who react and say things sometimes like, oh, this is all nonsense, this virus isn't real, this is all made up, and everyone should go back to work right now. I gotta say, that doesn't make sense to me either. And I work closely with the president. We need to protect the most vulnerable population, but for younger people who are young and healthy, we need to be moving to getting people back to work and doing so in ways that we use common sense. And so that means, in some circumstances, wearing masks, wearing gloves. It means in restaurants, for example, spreading out the tables And so the state of Texas, we've now just this last week, the governor allowed restaurants to open up, but at a 25% capacity so that we can have social distancing. We can allow the economy, allow some people to move forward, but at the same time mitigate the spread of the virus. I think that's a balance that it's hard to do, but it's the balance we've got to follow.
You're working on a new book. Yeah. Just give us a little snippet of what that book would be, and then we'll close this time and we'll pray for you.
Sure. So it's a book on the Supreme Court, and the working title is One Vote Away, how one vote on the Supreme Court can change history. And so each chapter talks about a different constitutional liberty that matters: religious liberty, free speech, the Second Amendment. And it talks about cases that I've been blessed to litigate.
Yeah.
During my career, particularly before the Senate. The first chapter talks about Van Orden versus Perry, which is defending the Ten Commandments monument in Texas that stands outside the Texas State Capitol. And that's a case that we defended in court. It went all the way to the Supreme Court, and we won 5-4. It was a landmark religious liberty victory that has not only kept that monument standing on the state capitol, but it's kept monuments all across the country standing. And so I try in each chapter to tell the war stories, the inside stories, what's going on at the court, and case after case after case that is really that are really vital. They're 5-4. We're one vote away from the result changing. We're one vote away. Let's take the Ten Commandments. We're one vote away from the Supreme Court ruling that monument and monuments just like it all have to be bulldozed. And the plan is for it to come out probably September, so come out before the election. And it's designed to really say, all right, these are the major issues before the court that are all in the balance, and depending on who the next nominees are, they're going to come out one way or the other. And so it's a chance for each of us to reflect on the importance of our constitutional liberties.